The future will bring big questions to Texas. Artificial intelligence is on its way.
AI has supercharged our ability for a lot of us to do our jobs and get information. The flip side to that is it has also supercharged our ability to get misinformation.
We will have the strongest protections for our constituents.
In studio, we hear from the Texas lawmaker overhauling state laws for the new technology. Then we hear from a new Texas-based group hoping to make sure humans remain in control and not the other way around.
We want to make sure that AI is aligned with human values, that we can control it, and that it does what we want it to do.
Plus, a behind-the-scenes look at the back end of the internet.
Everything has to have a physical footprint somewhere, and that's here.
A historic amount of data flows through centers, and we get exclusive access to the ones calling Texas home.
This is Lone Star Politics from NBC5 and the Dallas Morning News.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Phil Prazen from NBC5.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News. This morning, a deep dive into artificial intelligence and its coming impact on Texas.
AI is quickly transforming industries in the state, and while lawmakers encourage its benefits, there are growing ethical and big-picture concerns. This spring, state lawmakers passed a law aiming to encourage responsible AI use. House Bill 149 requires local governments to disclose how they use AI. It bans media encouraging self-harm and criminal activity. It also bans social scoring and creating sexual images of children. It also creates the Texas AI Council overseeing a sandbox program where companies can experiment with state oversight. State Representative Giovanni Capriglione, the AI guru in the Texas House, wrote the law. The Southlake Republican also co-chairs the state's AI Advisory Council. He joins us in studio this morning. Representative, good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
You too. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, Representative, AI is taking the world by storm. What do you think is the most significant piece of legislation you passed this session to monitor, to make sure we have responsible AI?
Yeah, we passed a lot of good technology policy this year. We passed the Texas Cyber Command. We updated our privacy laws. We even did quantum computing. But one of the most important things we did was work on our AI framework, one for public and private sectors, to make sure that we provide the right and appropriate guardrails around how these tools are being used.
And so you feel like it was a good start? Then?
Yeah, it is. You know, this is moving so quickly, it's growing so fast, but what we felt that we absolutely need to do is get something done after a lot of conversation with stakeholders, right? It's in every part of our lives today, whether it's when you go to the doctors, turn on your thermostat, you go in your car. AI is being used everywhere. So, of course, we need sensible, good regulations on how these tools are being used.
And before Phil drills down on some things, so in theory, what do you have to do next? How do you keep building on it? What does that look like?
Sure. Well, one of the things we're doing, of course, is we're constantly talking to folks and keeping our pulse on it. I mean, for myself, I'm talking to legislators in other states. We started a multi-state group. We've talked, and I've gone to Washington, D.C. to go see what policymakers are working on there. But we also have this committee that's part of this AI legislation to get constant feedback, and so that it's adaptive as we move forward and the technology changes.
And this AI committee is going to oversee the sandbox program. From what I understand, it's somewhat of a new idea. How does that work? What does the sandbox program do?
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to make sure is absolutely have these good regulations in place and these laws to restrict some of the most onerous things that AI does. But at the same time, we don't want to restrict innovation. And so the sandbox is kind of a little bit in between. We say, listen, with the proper licensing, with the proper authority, with the proper transparency, you can go and experiment on your own before it goes to the consumer to see if things work and don't work, right? So it's a way to protect yourself, to go and develop these tools, but at the same time with the realization that once you're commercializing this, it has to follow all the rules and all the laws.
Gotcha. And the new House Bill 149, the Texas Attorney General enforces the law. That's going to be a completely open seat in 2026. There are a couple candidates running for that spot. But why put all the power in the Texas AG's office to police something that is extremely powerful and will impact everybody?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's an elected position, so of course that way that whoever that is in the next session will be responsive to the voters. We had done something very similar with our privacy legislation last year. It was one of the strongest digital privacy laws that I was able to pass last session, and we put that, again, that ability to enforce to the Attorney General. They have sophisticated analysts that know a lot about the technology, very good attorneys who have already worked on really involved cases, but also on genetic cases and other things. So that same skill set is already in the Attorney General's office, so we're hoping to bring that to AI as well.
They've done it before, so and you like what you see out of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we probably have the best enforcement of any state.
And so if there's a fake image of Phil out there, I would then have to complain to the Attorney General, who would take action. I could not sue them, whoever made that image.
That's right. Whenever this law becomes effective, January of next year, we'll have a website that's easy to find and easy to go and file a complaint, and that will be investigated by the Attorney General. And
another specific item of the bill about capturing biometric data, faces, fingerprints, something like that. Question, though, when it comes to law enforcement on this, is there a law enforcement carve-out? Because I have done some reporting in the past of, Clearview AI. Some police departments use facial recognition software to find somebody they're looking for. What is the fate of that with this law?
Sure, and it's probably one of the most contentious parts of our legislation that we were able to put in that says no one can intentionally attempt to circumvent the Constitution, right? So let's take the Fourth Amendment. So in our legislation, we say if you go and you create something that goes and doesn't respect people's rights, that you're going and downloading and assuming that they're guilty maybe before a court of law. If you're taking that data, if you're taking that facial stuff, in order to do that, you may be in violation of their constitutional rights.
Really?
And therefore, this would not allow the government to be able to contract out for that kind of stuff.
So Clearview AI could not be used, maybe, in the future.
That could be, yes.
There was a difference of opinion in the past couple of weeks with Senator Ted Cruz, who said, basically he wanted to roll back the ability of states to control or monitor or regulate AI. It didn't happen in the big, beautiful bill that passed. But are you concerned that there may be another attempt by the federal government to rein in what states can do?
I think that, well, for those who don't know, there was this attempt to go and say any state law regarding and whether that was prevent abuses like child sexual abuse material, if it was, all of these, in my opinion, great laws the states have worked on, this moratorium would have removed. And I would say, obviously as a state rep and as a legislator, we listen to our people closely, right? And we're able to enact these laws very quickly. The federal government hasn't made any progress at all when it comes to AI. So the idea of removing state laws without even contemplating something else to put in its place would really put a lot of our citizens at risk. And so I'm glad that it was voted down 99-1.
What's your biggest fear with AI?
My biggest fear is how it can be used by some bad actors to negatively affect human behavior, to go and spread fake news, to go and create fake licenses. I'm also worried about how it's going to affect the workforce. We see all the time how people are being replaced, and I just want to make sure that we have a way to be able to keep training our workforce, but also being able to ensure those guardrails are in place.
State Rep Giovanni Capriglione, thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you.
So coming up, the threat of AI, it's right out of a science fiction movie, and one Texas-based group is taking it very seriously.
Plus, North Texas is now the second largest AI data center market in North America. Why the attraction and the impact of on the electrical grid?